ceremonies, Nathan Cassar.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Just as Planned Weddings podcast, where we bring you the very best wedding advice and insights to make your special day unforgettable. Now, I'm your host, as always, Nathan Cassar, and today we have an absolute legend in the industry joining us, John Edney of Edney Celebrations, also known as Celebrant John. Now, John is a true game changer in the wedding industry, offering a one-stop shop experience as a celebrant, DJ, and MC. But don't mistake him for a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none kind of guy. John delivers a full-service option that's finely tuned and tailored to perfection. He's added each service to his repertoire only when he's ready, and that is the thoughtful kind of approach that sets him apart. Known for his creative flair and his ability to handle a little bit of chaos, John has helped countless couples experience their dream weddings with a seamless combination of celebration, music, and heartfelt ceremonies. Today, we're going to dive into the benefits of having one person wear multiple hats, how trusting a professional with your big day makes all the difference, and why thinking outside the box and embracing a bit of chaos can lead to the best memories. John will also share how his philosophy of trust the process and have fun has been key to his success and why it's the foundation for creating unforgettable wedding experiences. So if you're looking for a true wedding pro who knows how to get things done and bring a unique energy to the big day, stick around. John is here. Welcome to the show. How you doing, brother?
Good, mate. Good. Thank you for reading the introduction exactly as I wrote it for you. That was
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
From one MC to another, of course, I would never lead you astray. I love that I must say, on a personal note, I do appreciate a lot that you have specifically taken the time to not just add everything into your package and say, look, I can take lots of money from you and sort of just basically barely scrape by with these kind of services. You've really sort of taken the time to master each part of the process and make sure that couples are getting the truest value out from you. Tell me, sort of set the scene chronologically speaking. So what were you first, and then how long did it take to add the other two into the piece?
Yeah, awesome. And I'm really glad you worded it like that. That to me, that's such an important thing. And I'm sure we'll have a greater deep dive as we go through. But I started as a DJ back in 2005. So the people watching this, in the visual format that it is, will probably look at me and go, how are you old enough to have done that? So if you want to do the math, I was 15 at the time. And then I slowly got into, so I was DJing, 18th, 21st, 16th birthday parties, school formals at the time, way before I got into weddings. Then at the same time, I actually got a job at a roller rink, and I was the DJ at a roller rink here in Melbourne. And then I had to use my voice a bit more, develop my voice. And then as time went on, as weddings became something that I did as a DJ, MCing became a natural progression. And I didn't really know what I was doing or what people did. And we are very, as I'm sure you experienced too, we are very siloed in what we do. We don't necessarily have a point of reference. We don't see what other people do. So I kind of learned by making mistakes is how I sort of went about it. And then I didn't really MC all that much. I was DJing a whole lot more. And then about 6 years, a bit over 6 years ago, I became a marriage celebrant, which is when I realized I should be probably utilizing my skill set a little bit more. Started emceeing a lot more as I was celebrating. And very quickly, I realized there's more than just speaking. You are the glue that holds the whole thing together. And so that was kind of the chronology of it all. So DJ first, MC kind of on the peripheries of what I was doing, and then becoming a celebrant brought everything together.
Did you have I'm just curious because I didn't know about your roller skate pass. Did you have a that typical roller rink, voice, like, all right, we're going to go round and round and round?
Yeah, well, yes, exactly that. It was, I'll give you a little taste of it. Good afternoon and welcome to Roller City Eltham. Before we kick things off today, that was the voice that started it all as a 15, 16, 17-year-old. And yeah, here we are now.
I love it. It's such an old school way of doing it too. It's I find that kind of hosting it permeates a little in the karaoke scene still. I find it's very strong, and some of the guys have been doing it for years. You know, the mobile karaoke bars and stuff, and pubs and clubs. But certainly not the most popular for weddings. So you can be assured that John won't be bringing that voice to your wedding, unless you ask him to.
Unless it's ironic.
But I got to ask, you know, you described that what you do is wearing multiple hats, and I certainly have a philosophy of my own in the sense that, particularly the celebrant hat and the MC hat, I'm very clear. Like, one is made out of completely different material to the next. It looks different, it sounds different, smells different, everything else in between. Even though a lot of people assume that these hats all are just talking, but just different stuff, and so. And even with the DJ stuff, of course, people can make assumptions that it's a separate hat, but certainly there are nuances to it that really make its own unique piece as well. Describe, like, what's the main benefit of having like one person like yourself who can do everything like that? And how can you kind of go to establish some semblance in people's minds thinking, oh, but how can someone possibly do all those things and do a good job?
Yeah, and another great question. It's I suppose it goes to what you said before about the building blocks. It hasn't been something that I've just gone, oh, cool, I can add this on, and I won't necessarily, you know, drill down too much into certain vendors. I've seen, you know, musicians who become DJs to make a bit of extra money, and they've said that openly. And I've seen it plenty of times. I'm sure you have too, with celebrants who go, oh yeah, I can public speak, I can become an MC as well. It's not that simple, and you touched on it earlier. You know, not necessarily being a jack of all trades, master of none. You've really got to fine tune and hone your craft on each of these skills individually, and that's what I've set out to do. I nailed. Well, I sound like a bit of a goose in saying that. I really put the effort into becoming a DJ and nailing that craft. And you can go through my Instagram and see videos of me mixing, and I have a lot of people go, "Oh, you're a celebrant. You can actually mix." And I go, "Yeah, that's where it all started." So I guess it's one point of contact, you know, to go back to the crux of your question. It's one point of contact. It's one supplier who has the knowledge of the intimacy of the entire day, and go through, actually, you know, create the running sheet for you, and captain the ship, and really kind of see the direction of where things are heading, but also be across all the nuances of the day. And you know, if something goes wrong, you know, it's one person to fix things, as opposed to trying to have a number of different people trying to, you know, take control or take charge. And yeah, sometimes it can be a little bit of, you know, everyone trying to, you know, have that leadership on the day, when less is more sometimes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I mean, certainly, you know, you if you are going to get multiple. I mean, of course, I'm part of weddings where mostly it's very silent. Everyone has their own responsibilities, including myself and the separate DJ, celebrant, etc. And often, yeah, there is a you know, someone has to step up. And so if you're not getting professionals on your side who are strong enough to be able to step up, you're right. You can see it plain and simple that there's this sort of like vacuum of power going on, this power struggle taking place. Like, you know, can you just do that on your own time, not at my wedding, you know, just make things go fine. But I've got to ask, for the fairness of balance, of course, don't get me wrong. I know that you personally, having known you for a while, I know that you are extraordinarily committed to what you do, and I know that you bring quality to each and every single silo, which is why I respect you so much. But I guess I must ask, out of fairness, is there anything that you offering yourself as an all-in-one, is there anything in that mix that you feel as though that couples are going to have to be aware of, that you fairly can't take care of because you are doing it all, if that makes sense?
Nothing really jumps to mind. The only thing I would say around it is that it can be a marathon. You know, do all services on the one day, it can be a marathon. And I've had some times in recent times where couples talk about, you know, having a midnight finish, and I will openly say to them, I don't know I've got that endurance in me.
Yeah.
Whereas I can go to 11, no problem, but midnight I can kind of I struggle a little bit with. That would be the only downside, I would say, to all services. Beyond that, I don't feel, you know, any kind of weakness that I've identified in the past offering all services. I've found a way to bridge that gap. So
Okay.
I'll give you an example. So introductions, wedding party introductions, and I know you and I have discussed this before. It can be a bit of a challenge as the DJ and the MC playing the music and announcing at the same time, because you don't necessarily want to be stuck in the DJ booth for that. You
Yeah.
want to be able to be mobile, be interactive. So my solution to that, and I've used this for a few years now, and I've upgraded this again recently, is a audio mixer that I can control anywhere in the room with an iPad. So when I'm emceeing, I can be out on the middle of the dance floor. I could be standing by the door where the wedding party or the couple enter from, and I can do the introductions there. So I'm not stuck in the one spot for the entire night. So that was a weakness before, but I've found a solution to that.
No, I love that. And I know you're right. We have spoken offline about that in the past. And I think I reiterate to the audience that I really, really, really respect that, because at the end of the day, it is of course, a sign of that commitment that you've said that you've taken craft and you've really sort of built upon it to the point of quality that you expect. But then more importantly too, it's been a bit of a gripe point for myself in the sense that, DJs who are offering MC services often are, sticking behind that booth. And while some couples who are listening may not necessarily think that there's anything to that, and that's fine, there is, as you and I both know, a real essence, a huge part of the personalization that's missed. If that person is this voice behind, you might as well just be behind a window doing it, or pre-recorded, if you're going to be static in one spot versus being an actual personality on the evening that's going to contribute to the vibe, presence, and flavor to the night, and be someone visible for them to be able to see who's making those introductions, really adds that moment in more ways than people are not really going to obviously anticipate unless they've seen it firsthand. So the fact that you technologically make it possible is phenomenal, and it's a credit to yourself. And I think more who are listening out there who are thinking of doing what you do I would encourage personally to offer that. Now, speaking of sort of this mix of everything you've got, and I want to talk about that from the celebrant to the MC side, because we understand the DJ has their own place in the world. But when it comes to the difference between celebrant and MC, I would always, as I said just before, they're two different spheres of influence, and they're like, Earth and Mars kind of thing, in my opinion, even though people don't believe that, or at least don't initially think that. Can you explain sort of how you adopt a celebrancy mindset and then transition an audience into the MC sort of world mindset seamlessly?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess it's a different kind of energy is probably the best way to explain it from the outset. So as a celebrant, there's a bit more preparedness. Have I said that word correctly? Let's go with that.
Yeah, that's cool.
There's a bit more preparedness in that it's a lot more scripted, but the art of it is to make it look like it's not. So I will write the ceremony, but also try and make it look like it's all off the cuff or a little bit more relaxed. Whereas as an MC, I find that I ad-lib a lot more than I do for a ceremony, but also the energy comes up a little bit, and I don't necessarily force it or plan it. It's just the way it speaks to me. When I'm emceeing, all of a sudden it's turned up to 10 or even 11 at times, whereas there is still a good amount of energy within the ceremony, but it's a really different kind of energy. It's more appropriate to what that is. So, as I'm sure we'll discuss, I bring a little bit of chaos into a ceremony, but I also give it the respect it deserves. It's not, at that point in time, it's not, a free-for-all or a comedy show. It's got to be appropriate for what it is, whereas, reception-wise, people are letting the hair down. People are having fun, and the energy is turned up at that point.
It's funny because, I love this concept of chaos, and certainly we're very similar, you and I, in the sense where I think we both consider ourselves to be agents of chaos to the conductor of it as the day progresses. And what I love is that you pride yourself on that creative sort of mindset to take a ceremony and not so much like for the sake of it, twist it on its head, but find ways in order to engage a little bit of sprinkling of chaos to make it something that's truly unique. Can you describe how you do that in the ceremony before we get to the other stuff at the reception?
Yeah, for sure. So The best example I can give you, and this is the one I keep coming back to, is probably the early days of me producing social media content. I had a lovely couple, but they didn't necessarily give me a whole lot to work with for the ceremony. And when I was writing the ceremony, the bride kept referring to the groom as being tall. But then I was also looking at her notice of intended marriage and saw that her occupation was a forklift driver. So I've got, okay, there's a loose connection there between him being tall and her being a forklift driver. So the way the script, the writing process works, and I can't explain how I write. It's just nonsense. But it works for me. And the way I wrote it, I ended up writing it with going, when they met, she noticed that it was really tall, which led to her career ambitions to become a forklift driver, so she too could pull insert beep here down from great heights. So that's kind of where things go. And I suppose if you have that in isolation, it's not funny, but in the context of it, it was awesome. And that really, really set the tone for the day and had people laughing. So there's no rhyme or reason to the writing. It's just as the words are in front of me or the content is in front of me, the writing process just happens. And I wish I could explain it, but it's my secret sauce and I'm holding on to it.
No, and so you should. I will respect that line implicitly. But I'm curious about one thing, and I hope you can share this about sort of more on a macro level amongst the industry. Are you noticing a trend to much more towards couples like, say, Gen Z and Gen Alpha getting married? Yeah, I hope not. That sounds too young. But are we seeing a trend towards younger millennials and Gen Z moving towards less traditional, reverent types of weddings? Or is that still just hanging on where people it's just love, 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 beauty, beauty, beauty? What kind of ratio are we talking there?
It's a really challenging one. And what I've found is there's two groups of people. There's people, and it's probably a similar thing for you too. There's people who want a celebrant. People who want a celebrant don't want me. People who want me don't want a celebrant. So what I find is there's people that don't necessarily know. They feel that they just need the outcome, in which case they will go, the cheapest option. Whereas there's people who will go, oh no, we want a bit of personality. This is our hero element to the day. We want a celebrant who will, make this an event as opposed to just get us across the line. So I see those two things. And that's why I say, people who want a celebrant don't want me. I spent the first maybe 3 years of being a celebrant as just being a celebrant. People wanted the cheapest price, whereas there was a shift. Whereas now I'm the item that they want, and they may sort of make sacrifices elsewhere to be able to pay for me as that item. So sometimes, and I suppose I liken it to buying a house. You go and buy a house, and you don't necessarily look at the things that are important at the time. Like, you go and buy a house in winter, you're not looking at air conditioning in bedrooms.
True.
And until summer comes, like, I wish we bought a place with aircon. Now we've got to look at getting air conditioners installed. Similar with a wedding. People may cheap out in certain elements, entertainment being one of them. It comes around, they go, oh, no one's dancing. No one's dancing because we're using Spotify.
That, or I think it even starts well earlier too. I mean, because I always consider, because I when it's an on-site, as an example, when it's an on-site wedding ceremony, that's the same place that I'm working for the reception. I always love to come. I want to be there straight from guest arrival, just in the background. It's absolutely the celebrant show. I don't do much to interfere into that process, but certainly I love to see where the tone of the audience is at that point. And it's very instructive to me to find out whether or not they've hired as you describe in your words, a celebrant, quote unquote, or a non-celebrant, to use the phrasing we're going with here, in the sense that I'm able to then determine what level the audience is going to be at, what the couple are preferring, what I can get away with in the night versus how I need to meter my tone and my language in order to fit the appropriateness of the audience and the couple that I'm working with. I mean, generally, yes, you and I would be getting audiences and couples and clients who are going to be well enough aligned with who we are because they wanted us. But at the same time, it's interesting and instructive to see the kind of celebrant / non-celebrant types. But to touch on something you mentioned there about people removing entertainment out of the picture, I would say, to give the audience listening right now even greater clarity, what you and I are trying to refer to is essentially that it's a choice between someone who is legally able, according to the government, able to allow you to sign a piece of paper with two witnesses, with saying certain amount of words correctly in the right phrase and form, and you are then legally bound and married together, versus that person who can do that stuff, but realistically the main piece is their entertainment value. And so, and all the wonderful nuance that comes along with that. And so you're right. The question is whether or not they're willing to pay for that, or if entertainment, connection, people feeling connected to one another and have things to talk about and reflect upon is going to be important. I guess it's a critical question, right?
100%. And it comes down to, again, the hero elements. There's people that try and do too much, or there's people that don't do enough. And for example, florals, amazing, but $5,000 to $10,000 on florals, but then you're going $400 for a celebrant. What's the priority?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a question that I think, people have to make that choice. And I would be the first to say, and I'm sure I can speak for you, that there's neither you or I or anyone else with a similar mindset is going to be speaking to our listeners right now and saying, we're not saying to you, oh, you don't want us? Cool. Well, then you want a boring wedding. Like, we're not saying it anywhere near as anything like that. But certainly there is a question of finding what means most to you and going with that, and then trusting that process along the way, that the people that you've got along there are going to have the outcome that you're hoping for. If it's just to sign a piece of paper, fantastic. That's cool. Plenty of people will do that for you. But if it's for people to have an experience on the day, well, then there are going to be other people who can accommodate that as well. And speaking of the experience that comes after, so setting the scene, you've made this wonderfully, mildly chaotic / fun sort of experience at the ceremony with respect to the fact that it's about love and commitment and everything. And then we get to the reception. What is it about that you're able to do because you mentioned about asking your couples to trust the process. Can you sort of talk a little bit more about how that philosophy shapes your approach to each wedding, and perhaps even more specifically to your receptions? And how is it that you mold their day and their guests to ensure that they have a really good time?
Yeah, for sure. And you touched on it before, and I love that you go and if you can, you go and check out the ceremony, because it gives you a head start on the day. And I've got the front row seat to that. I'm carrying that through the entire day.
Yeah.
So I've just lost track of the question there. So in terms of how I carry that through, is that?
Yeah. How do you? And then what? When it comes to reception, like, how do you make it fun?
Yeah. So it's a really challenging question to answer, because it kind of just happens in the moment, and it's about bringing everything together. So, for example, how I make it fun. Keeping the show on the road, really, and making sure the couple are looked after first and foremost. But also, let's go, for example, how I make it fun. Speeches. So a bit of a recap. So after someone has spoken, I'm taking notes as people are making speeches. So whether it be the father of the bride or a groomsman, that kind of thing, I'm taking notes and doing a bit of a recap, kind of touch on the funny things or the exciting things, or kind of twist their words and take a bit of creative license with some of the things they may have said during their speech. Turn that around, sort of bring and not just be that sort of, oh, thanks this person for speaking, now we're going to move on to this next person. So not necessarily be rigid, just kind of let things flow and have fun. But also, I've got a bit of a golden ticket in that I've learned a lot about the couple from working with them as their celebrant. I'm equipped with a lot of information which other people may not be, and then I kind of weave that through the reception as well, where possible.
I love that, and I can totally see you doing that. But more importantly, I appreciate it because it's. I mean, I'm not as armed with as much information as you have usually, because you have that sneaky little extra bit as a celebrant. But certainly, what I love is that you, similar to myself, where we are actively listening. And I think you're right. There's a big difference between pushing play on the DJ deck that says "Thank you, Father, next speech, please," which could be easily done pre-recorded. And I make it, I joke, but it really could be, versus actively listening, throwing back to certain things that took place either at the beginning of the day or the beginning of the reception, etc., or even just immediately in the speech, as an example, really is the small little things that add to the whole that I know personally that couples and guests really appreciate, because it just shows that there's a care factor to it. And I'm sure you're probably the same as I when people come up to you and say, okay, so how long have you known them? And you're like, they paid my invoice,
100%. That's the best compliment you can ever get. People coming up, how long have you known the couple for? And I suppose in the modern day with a lot of Zoom meetings or Teams meetings, the wedding day is the first day we meet these people. A
Yeah,
lot of the time.
sometimes. Yeah.
So to have that as a bit of feedback is such a compliment. Amazing. And I want every wedding to be like that.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I know that you're an absolute master of that craft. I love watching your content, and I want to let the audience know how to find that about you in a second. But I've got a couple of quick rapid fire ones to fit whatever first comes to your mind, kind of thing. And then I'll have the audience find out exactly how they can book all of your wonderful free services. First off, John, tell me, what's one of the most iconic moments in your career to date?
If you go onto my Instagram, which the details will come out soon, it won't be too hard to it won't be too hard to, I can't even words today. It will be very easy. Let's go with that, to find a reel of me flying between two ceremony locations in a helicopter. Early on last year, that all actually started because I found myself in a situation where I told two couples I was available on the same day. I learned a lot from that, but also the problem solving of that was chartering a helicopter, which made for some of the best content ever. And it really kind of elevated me at that point. And now a lot of weddings I go to here in Melbourne, I'll be sitting with other vendors having dinner. And every so often one of them will go, "Oh, you're the helicopter guy." So that's become probably the most iconic or thing that I've sort of become known for, which is kind of strange.
Cool. And I mean, I love it, and I was hoping you'd say that. I asked it on purpose, but I think it's I love it. It was definitely one of the things that I knew about you before I met you, and I think it is just so great to see that you took something that was potentially a problem and instead turned it into an incredible thing that, you made both people very happy, and you were able to become iconic, which is very challenging in a world with 10,000 celebrants and various other wedding vendors across Australia. It's so hard to make a name for yourself like that these days. So no, it's a credit to you, and I encourage everyone to go check that video out. Last question before you can tell people how to find that. What is one ultimate question that couples should ask when they're deciding to work with you?
That's a great question. Where do we go? What happens if something goes wrong? I suppose for me, wearing three hats, there is a liability that comes with that. And I would encourage people to have that conversation, whether it be with me or another, vendor. There's not many of us who are celebrants, DJs, and MCs all in one. But it can be a very, very good thing and a convenience, but also it can come with risk. And I'm well and truly aware of that. But there's plans. There's plans in place. There's backups upon backups, and I would encourage anyone to have that conversation with me or any of their suppliers for their wedding.
No, I think that's an incredible way to answer that. And I think, couldn't have said it any better. John, we're unfortunately out of time. You know that you and I, we've literally had multiple hour-long conversations, and I'm sure we will in the future. But for our listeners' sake, that's all the time we have. How can people find you and book you and have you fly in for their next wedding?
So I'd encourage the first point of contact to be social media. So you can find me on Instagram at Celebrant John. TikTok at Celebrant John 8. Someone else, being me, took Celebrant John and lost the login details for that account. So Celebrant John 8 on TikTok. Or my website is simply www.celebrant.melbourne.
Love it. Perfect. Couldn't get any easier than that. John, stay warm down in Melbourne. I look forward to, I think you and I are catching up soon. Our fellow MCs and celebrants and DJs are all having a big conference soon as of the time of recording. So I do look forward to catching up with you and learning more about hopefully sharing a couple more stories. But in the meantime, take care and keep creating chaos.
Thanks for having me, mate. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Just As Planned Wedding Podcast. Please like and subscribe to let me know that you want more videos just like this one. And of course, please follow us on our socials at Just As Planned Wedding on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for more expert insights to help your wedding go just as planned.